Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of the original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved mysteries.
Alright, Ben. 2.0.
Are we going? Are
Yeah.
we in? Are we in it?
Yeah.
All right. We're live.
I
Live.
swear sometimes Ben doesn't know I'm talking to him even though we're the only two people sitting in a room.
We're live from studio, our bedroom.
Studio bedroom?
Yeah.
No, 2.0, because we're retaking episode 8 again.
Oh, yes. Yes, we are.
Hi Ben, welcome to our podcast.
Well, I mean, I just didn't know if we were going to reveal that to everybody, you
Well,
know?
of course we're going to reveal it to everybody, because if we sound a little, I don't know, just, we're going to be more... Are you good?
I'm great. I'm so good.
Ben keeps messing with his headphones and looking at me weird.
I just, I'm getting comfortable.
Okay.
Getting ready.
Ben's getting comfortable to record this again.
Again.
Yeah, so we recorded this last night originally. Neither you and I felt great about it. I think by the time we were done,
I don't think our
felt...
equipment was working right. We're trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
We're figuring this out on the fly from this and YouTube videos.
Yeah, I do all of the editing, and I'm learning as I go. So sometimes... And I don't know what half these terms mean in the world of editing. And so I'm sure a lot of this I could probably preset to be a lot easier, but I haven't quite mastered how to do that yet. Anyways, so...
Maybe we'll figure it out by episode, I don't know, 200.
Episode 200, give or take.
Golly.
We'll have this figured out.
We did talk about last night. I mean, we went into how many episodes this show has.
Yeah, so let me look that up
say?
because last night when we recorded, when I was listening back to it, I said 500 episodes. But then today when someone asked me about it, I said 300. So that's a big gap.
I'm going to
Let's
say
see,
300.
how many episodes of Unsolved Mysteries? Oh dear.
How many?
607.
No, that's not true.
It's right here. Unsolved Mysteries, number of episode, 607.
That's no. I think the ones, there's like 8 seasons. You're talking like 20 something.
Babe, I hate to break it to you, but there's 12 seasons.
Oh my gosh.
Ben didn't know, I think, what he signed up for when I said, babe, I have an idea.
Golly.
You didn't do any research. You just jumped in.
No. Ugh. All right.
So, get comfortable.
But this episode is season 1, episode
We're only
8.
episode 8 of 607.
I don't know. I'm pretty, by that time it'll probably just be you and I. No one else listening.
No one's still left.
No
one's hanging around.
No one's hanging around trying to figure out what's happened in all these episodes.
So, yeah, anyways, we recorded last night. I went to edit today. It didn't sound good, and neither you and I felt good about the recording last night. So, here we are, date night number 2. We're going to take it again.
We're in it.
We're in it, and even if no one ever listens to this, I can't put out something that is not good.
Yeah.
So, here we go.
right.
We start this episode right at the top with a story about a girl named Christy Nichols.
Yeah, Robert Stack comes back in the trench coat.
Mm-hmm. He's got his trench coat. The iconic look is starting to be more concise in the episodes. We're starting to kind of see that look.
He's back. He wants to tell us a story.
Yeah.
In the trench coat in a dark alley.
Yeah. And as of right now, when the episode is on, it's being touted as a missing person.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, that's how they started out.
Yeah.
I don't really... Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to get into it.
We'll get into it. So the town of Gothenburg, Nebraska is a small town, 3,000 people. So in a town of 3,000 people, you have a few things. One, you have everyone knows your name. And two, everybody knows your business. And for better or worse, when you're in a small town like that, people are going to talk, but people are also going to try to help and be involved and make sure things are taken care of. Okay? On December 11th, 1987, a 22-year-old housewife, Christy Nichols, vanishes from her home. Her disappearance turned into quite the small town controversy.
I bet it did.
She was married to a man named Mark, and they got married when she was 19.
Okay.
Soon after they got married, they had a daughter, and then a few years later, they had a son. So we've got a small family here. Her mother is interviewed on this episode of Unsolved Mystery, and she tells us that her daughter was quiet and shy, but also didn't have a ton of self-esteem. However, once she became a mom, it kind of unlocked some of that in her. She seemed to find maybe her voice or maybe her calling.
Her inner self.
Her inner self. She was very proud. She felt like this was the one thing she had done right in her life.
Well, that's because she was married to Mark.
Yeah. Mark. So
Mark's on the episode.
Yeah.
He gets to talk to us and tell us some great stories.
And he really thinks that we're all idiots when he's talking.
Yeah.
He thinks he's the smartest man in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you know.
So, just for that simple fact alone that Christy was this deeply devoted mother, that she wouldn't have just abandoned her children. Right? That's kind of one of the first red flags in this story.
Yeah.
So her husband Mark is interviewed. He lets us know he works at a local gas station, and he was also the last person to see Christy alive.
What?
Yeah. He's annoyed that there are rumors going around about him in this town, and he just wishes people would mind their own business and keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. He's disgusted, and he says repeatedly all he wants is his wife to come home.
So, hold on.
However, he has zero emotion when he's talking to us.
We got a husband.
Mm-hmm.
With a missing wife.
Yep.
And he's the last person to see her alive. And he's mad that people might think
he had something to do with it.
That he's involved
and they
in
just
her disappearance.
Need to keep their opinions to themselves.
Well, clearly.
Mm-hmm. So, friends and family, relatives, no one's heard from Christy for a few days. So, even though Mark had filed a missing persons report, the Nebraska State Police were called in to investigate this further. They very quickly uncover a few things. One.
Hold on. Time out. Let me guess. They didn't have a great marriage.
They didn't have a great marriage.
What? How did I
they
guess
weren't.
That? I mean, I did watch the
couple.
episode,
I was
but
say, you have seen the episode.
I did watch the episode, but
you're watching this episode, and very quickly you're like, we're all seeing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The moment the guy came on the screen and started talking, I was like, this man had something to do with it.
I mean, like, when I'm watching this episode, I'm thinking back to the story that we talked about. I can't remember which episode it was, but it's the guy that dropped his wife. Supposedly.
Yeah, who had that fear of getting on the train or getting just
she's
beat out in
terrified
town.
to leave the house, but he drops her off, and she gets on the BART train.
Yeah,
and is never seen again. And he's just like,
and he acts like he's so mad that
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I was the last one to see her alive.
These two men should.
I mean, they seems like they
would get along great.
They're two peas in a pod.
Yeah,
you know? They're okay.
Okay, so on top of learning that their marriage wasn't going great, they uncovered a report at a local hospital that she had just been treated a few days before for an injury that she had received from Mark during a fight.
Oh, man.
Mark gets on the screen and tells us that the fight occurred only when he tried to keep Christy from going out. He claimed that she got upset with him, and she actually was the one that tried to hit and kick him, and also burned him with a cigarette.
Of course.
And that all he did was try to like toss her off of him and she landed on their waterbed the wrong way.
And that just solidifies the era that we are in during this show. When they say waterbed, it's 2024.
So if anyone out there is under the age of 30,
and
saying, has what says waterbed, ooh, that sounds fun. Let me just tell you what these things used to be. So they were giant wooden boxes, and inside the wooden box was a huge, either king, queen, twin, whatever, sized basic balloon. And you put a hose in it, and you filled it up with water, and you used that as your mattress.
I would venture to guess, okay, in the 80s, there was a lot of water beds.
There was a lot of water beds.
My parents had a water bed as a kid.
A king-size one in their upstairs bedroom.
As a kid. But I would venture to guess, in the year 2024, I would say there's
Can you even buy a waterbed anymore, do you
zero
think?
people that have a water bed.
And to share a waterbed with somebody
is the worst.
That thing ripples every time you move.
If
And
one
it makes
person
noise because you
moves.
can't have it like overly full, right? There has to be some air in there. So it would slosh around when
But
you
can
would
you imagine any time someone had to get out of the waterbed or in the waterbed?
or move their pillow, for heaven's sakes.
And I mean, I move a lot in my sleep.
Yes.
I don't think anyone could share a waterbed with me.
No.
I couldn't even share a waterbed with myself.
Yeah.
I would wake myself up from all the moving.
Yeah,
It'd be awful.
It sounds awful. So
I just think it's funny because we're in the 80s and he says waterbed. And
well,
I
on the
bet at
reenactment,
that
they
time-
show the waterbed, and you can see the instant I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that takes me back." Because having a waterbed in the 80s and 90s meant that you were doing fairly well.
Yeah.
It was
balling.
It was a choice that people made, and they were proud of that choice.
It was a choice that a lot of people made.
lot of people made that choice.
All right, continue.
So then we get an interview of the emergency room doctor. And I mean, again, this is a small town, and she says that Christy was there and that Mark was basically hovering around, and Christy came off as a scared sort of rabbit. That's how she described her.
So it's like Mark wouldn't leave her side.
He wouldn't leave.
It's almost like he was afraid what she might tell the doctors.
Exactly. And then we continue to find. We get a few more talking heads. We find out that her cousin had also been made aware by Christy that she was being abused by Mark, and in fact showed her some bruising on the side of her body that had been left by Mark.
Okay, so we got a missing wife, not in a good marriage.
Yeah.
Husband last person to see her.
There was rumor that she was also having an affair.
Husband's the last person to see her.
Yep.
And now we have rumors that the husband has been abusing her.
Yep.
I wonder what could have happened.
And
all right,
we're going to even add a few more things to that list you have going on, right? So just 2 days before...
I hope some of it points away from Mark. I would hate to have Mark look like he did something.
Like he was guilty of something?
Yeah.
So 2 days before Christy disappeared, on December 9th, she actually goes to a divorce attorney in a town, out of town, right? He was well known, from my understanding, from doing a lot of divorces, working with battered women. And he walked her through several things, gave her some advice. He actually even helped her file a police report about the abuse. And as well, says to interview that she was in the top 5 of being one of the most distressed and upset women he had ever worked with. So it even sounds like Christy's visceral reaction to what she's going through is not some secret. Okay? The big thing to note about this that they tell us is that she made plans on coming back. So this is 2 days before she goes missing. She has a follow-up appointment scheduled with her attorney for a week later.
Okay.
So she's making plans. Okay. December 10th, the day after the meeting with her attorney, she and Mark and their 2 children, right? So Chrissy, Mark, and the kids decide to go Christmas shopping. Mark lets us know in the episode that he spent the day with his family and claimed that he felt a little uncomfortable that day because she seemed to have a lot of anger towards him.
What? And he's upset about
like the
that?
good husband that he is.
I bet. He's probably going to do something nice.
Plans that evening a little date night for them. Christy and Mark hire a babysitter, and Mark takes Christy to the local bar where Christy actually worked. And
so, oh man, let me just say, I know if you're like, hey, where should I take my wife?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go out on a date. Why don't I take her to her work? That's what she wants to do on her day off for date night. Let's go back to her
hang
work.
Out at the bar that she already works at.
Yeah.
He's such a romantic.
I know. It's like, hey, I know you haven't seen this place in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of working, let's just go hang
out at your work. Exactly.
That's a great idea.
So the babysitter notes that even she was a little surprised that they were going out on a date.
But they went to her work?
Well, no, that they'd gone out on a date because this girl's like a teenager in high school, and she is even aware that this marriage is struggling. The whole town is aware, exactly. But Mark would just like everyone to keep that opinion to themselves. So Mark lets us know that when they're at the bar, they're having a good time. They're laughing. Our reenactment actors are playing pool and being a little flirty with each other and giggling and having a good time. However, Uncle Gary is the owner of the bar, and he's actually Mark's uncle. He lets us know that even though that's what Mark said, that it was very obvious between the two of them. Don't you dare
tell me that Mark might have lied.
That there was some tension between the two of them.
No. Are you saying that Mark might not be telling the truth in this interview?
No, it seems like there's some contradicting stories to what he's telling everybody.
Oh, man. Come on, Mark. Mm-hmm.
So now we're down to the night of the disappearance. She's been seen at the bar.
We
have eyes on that.
Off, dude.
They drive after the bar to a convenience store, like a little mini mart, right? The clerk even sees her. So around 12:30-ish, we have eyes on Christy, right?
Okay.
He said that she was nervous and seemed a little uncomfortable, but she was there. By 1 a.m., they're home from with the babysitter. And this is where Mark's story even goes a little further off the rails.
No.
The babysitter is at home.
Mark's been forthcoming
doing her
the whole
homework
time.
And watching television. She never saw Christy come in the door.
Well, she's still in the car.
Mark says, well, Christy was several yards in front of him and that she kind of rushed inside and skedaddled into
Do you think she was like
the bathroom.
Do you think when they got out of the car, she's like, I got to get through the door first?
Maybe she
wanted to like race him to the door.
She wanted to race him to the door.
Get through the door first.
Yeah. She was having such a good time that evening. She just really wanted to get inside super quick.
Let's have a race.
Yeah. However, once again, the babysitter was really confused because she's like, if anything, she felt like she would have heard Christy's footsteps come in the house because they had tile floor. And in the reenactment video,
She probably took her shoes off first, and then she went
and
in.
she tiptoed.
And
She didn't want to bug the
real
babysitter.
fast.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want the babysitter to see her.
To see her.
Yeah.
And actually, the babysitter even hung around for several minutes waiting to get paid, and Christy never reemerged from the supposed bathroom
She's
trip.
playing hide and seek.
What?
She's playing hide and seek.
She's playing hide and seek. You gotta come find me.
Yeah. If you want to get paid.
Yeah. And so finally, Mark pays her, but he pays her with cash, which again, the babysitter's like, this is so weird. Like, normally Christy's the one that pays me, and she always pays me with a check.
Which, back then, checks.
It was either check or cash. Like, that's what
that's
you
the
were
only way
going to
to pay.
have, right? And it seemed like Christy kind of organized and took care of all that. So Mark seemed a little caught off guard in that interaction.
And Mark slipped her like an extra 20 is like, hey.
Be quiet. Don't say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're my alibi.
You're my alibi. So at this point, Mark tells detectives, and he tells us in Unsolved Mysteries, that he kind of pitter-patters around the house, watches some television, and then around 2 a.m, he decides, I'm ready to go to bed, and he crawls right into the waterbed next to Christy, and she's sound asleep, happy as a clam.
Well, she didn't wake up because the waterbed was like super still.
Super still waterbed. And he fell asleep. He is awoken at 7 a.m. the next day from the children.
From the children.
Yeah. And oddly, Christy's not in the bed.
She decided sometime between 2 and 7 to get out of bed.
And he even notes in that short time frame that one of her suitcases and a very specific list of items are missing from the house.
Of course.
Okay?
That's the first thing I would notice.
Around 9:30 in the morning, he receives a call from his mother-in-law asking to speak to Christy. He tells mother-in-law, oh, she's still in bed. I'll have her call you when she wakes up. He tells us on Unsolved Mysteries he didn't feel the need to worry his mother-in-law because he just assumed Christy maybe went out and did some grocery shopping or something.
The best part is I don't want to worry my mother-in-law. It's like, dude, you realize.
Don't you think he could have said, hey,
she's not home right
is
now?
she at your place?
Or
It's her mom. Don't you think
I haven't actually seen her this morning,
yeah.
but he automatically assumes people are going to be worried. I'm just throwing a guess out there, but he might be worried that other people might be worried about her because she's in his trunk.
Are you saying that he's trying to buy a little bit of time because this is all rolling a little quicker than he thought?
I'm just throwing a guess out there that it's possible that he's worried that other people are going to start getting suspicious, so he doesn't want to put them on the scent because
yeah. Well, it gets better because by 11:30 in the afternoon, Christy hasn't returned. So Mark loads the kids up in the car and just shows up.
And he's like, I can't watch these
I
kids.
can't possibly watch these children. He shows up at
Grandma's house.
Yeah. On Christy's side. So this is Christy's grandma. He shows up at Grandma's house.
I just love he's using her family. Hey, listen.
You want...
I've been beating on your granddaughter and your daughter.
This guy seems
but
like
I
your
need
classic
your help.
narcissist, right? Where it's just hey, yeah, I'm an abusive spouse, but could you watch the kids real quick?
Take the kids for a minute? I got a hole I got to dig way out in the backwoods. I'm going to be busy for a little while.
So Mima Violet tells us that, once again, this is out of the norm. She does not mind watching the grandkids. She loves her grandkids. However, Christy would normally call and say, hey, are you home? Can you help watch the kids? Or can we come by?
That's what a normal courteous
That's what a normal person does, right? However, Mark just shows up, drops him off, fails to even ask, hey, because she lives in the same town. Hey, did Christy come over here last night? Is she asleep with you? Have you seen her? Have you talked to her? Have you heard from her? Nothing. He doesn't ask any of those questions. He casually drops the kids off and says, Christy's missing. I got to go look for her.
I think it was hey, can I borrow a shovel? But I'm sorry. I don't think he did.
No, he didn't do that. He tells reporters he'd spent the next 2 hours just casually driving around town looking for her. Yeah. Now, mind you, Her car is still in their driveway.
Of course. So she got up between 2 and 7,
Mm-hmm.
packed a suitcase, and left and said, "You know what I don't need? A vehicle.
A vehicle.
I don't need that.
No.
I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
My kids or a vehicle. This makes sense."
Yep.
Got it.
However, once again, this is a small town, and all the places that he claims he went to, no one saw him that afternoon. Okay? By about 1:30 in the afternoon, he finally rolls around to the local police department and files a missing persons report. Things that we need to know that she did not take with her. Her makeup, or any cosmetics or toiletries. None of her, hardly any of her clothing. No, her social security card, wedding rings, and did not pick up her last paycheck. Okay?
Well, she doesn't need money either.
No. But who needs money when you're trying to just disappear?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or a vehicle.
Without a vehicle.
Yeah. Or some forms of ID.
Nah. Well, she's getting a new identity.
The police also want us to know that the day after her disappearance, Mark packs up all their belongings and moves out of their house.
That's not suspicious.
Nope, not at all. And within a few days, he sells her car and then sells his.
Not suspicious.
And gets rid of all of her belongings.
Not suspicious at
Yeah,
all.
not at all. So, March 1988, 3 months after Christy's disappearance, her suitcase and purse are discovered along the roadside rest area about 30 miles west of Gothenburg. Police find it oddly suspicious that Mark, this obviously just hands-on husband and father, is able to give them an exact list as to what Christy packed in her suitcase.
Yeah, because all of us husbands out there,
Mm-hmm.
we know all articles of clothing our wives own. And if they took some of it.
So I took several items of clothing out of the closet today. I want you to go in there and see if you can tell me which ones are missing.
Yeah. I'm going to say a shirt and a pair of pants.
I'm going to need you to tell me exactly what kind of shirt.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's no husband could walk into his wife's closet and say, "Oh, I think she took this shirt, this pair of pants, and this."
Could you even tell me what pair of shoes are not there?
No.
No.
I have no idea.
Half the time I'll put shoes on and wear them out and you'll be like, "Oh, when did you get those?" I'm like, "I've had them for over a year now." You're
Don't know.
Okay. Exactly. So that's kind of where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. Robert comes back on. This family is desperate. And actually, the grandmother gets on, and at this point, it's like making a plea. You can kind of tell that she's making a plea almost to Mark in a way that
What?
even
why would she do that?
she's not alive, that they would just like to find her remains so that they can bring her home and bury her and like say their goodbyes. Mark gets on and gives us his little sob story about how he had nothing to do with it and he just wants his wife to come home, and that if she's watching this, that the
Come home
least
to what?
she could
You sold
do,
her house and all of her stuff.
the least that she could do is just like reach out and let someone know that she's okay so that everyone in the town would just get off his back.
Yeah, well, I think she probably,
I don't think she has the ability to be making phone calls. Okay. So, unfortunately, this has a sad update.
So I just think, supposedly this is a mystery.
Yeah.
Okay, or it's.
I will
pitched
say,
to us
I
as a
understand.
mystery.
I will give props. I don't know how people got these stories on the show. I'm going to guess that either the family members or the detectives had to reach out and try to like make an appeal to the producers.
Yeah.
It's very obvious. This is not a mystery. Maybe the mystery is what happened and where is she, not necessarily.
Well, the mystery is how can we get the evidence to put the right person behind bars?
Exactly.
Like that's, hey, we've run out of ways of trying to find
we're
this.
going to throw everything we have at the wall and see what sticks. And
if
Unsolved
someone
Mysteries
can-
at the
if
time
someone's got some
is one of
information,
those.
Someone's got some information to come forward, we would love it because
We need it. We're at a dead end.
we're pretty sure we know where this leads. We just need
And they were saying that the two biggest things that they are struggling with at that moment is that one, they have found some blood stains in the back of his truck, or the back of his car in his trunk, and in the house. However, none of them were big enough to determine like a loss of life.
Yeah, that was that was the best part. So the detective comes in and says, so after he moves out of the house, they search the
Yeah, they
house,
search it.
and they found a blood stain in the bedroom. And Mark proceeds to tell them, oh, that was from her menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Yeah, that's not how that works.
I'm like, the best part is this guy keeps saying this stuff in full thinking.
I know, but you know
that
what?
we'll
It's
just
infuriating because in a way, him being so arrogant in his lies, it's made it so that he's gotten away with it. It reminds me a lot of the Susan Powell case out of Salt Lake City.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You do. I listened to the podcast Cold. They were members of the LDS church. They had 2 little boys. The father-in-law was also like obsessed with his daughter-in-law, Susan.
That's
and
weird.
It was the same sort of weird thing. Like on a Sunday night, he takes his sons out camping in sub-degree, like dead of winter temperatures, just on a whim. His wife's never seen again. He claims she stayed home while he went camping with his 2 boys. Anyways, long story short, he was such an arrogant SOB. And like, he ended up in the same case, like same scenario, like they couldn't get him.
Yeah.
And, you know, he ended up, unfortunately, like family annihilation style. He took his life in the 2 boys. It's terrible. So,
all right. So
so I did some research on this, and yes, they did some DNA testing in the early 2000s to confirm biologically that the blood was hers and that it was not menstruated blood or menstrual blood. Okay, so we know that. But once again, our body and remains have never been found.
Never been found.
And that the blood that they have found was not enough to even like argue that she couldn't have lived through that.
It wasn't, a big enough blood stain to say, yeah, she's definitely,
They had
died
also
from that.
found out after this broadcast that she had been meeting with a domestic violence counselor, and Mark found out about this. He threatened to remove the children from her life unless she basically shut her mouth about everything and stopped seeing the counselor. And he hid his children at his parents' house. So his parents are complicit in some of this behavior. Okay. So when I did some research on this one to see what the most up-to-date information has been, there is a lady in the town, and she writes for the Gothenburg Leader.
Okay.
And in, I believe, 22 and 23, she did, in December, did like an update.
So she's keeping track of this.
Yeah, and her article in 22, the headline is Somebody Knows Something. And then the article in the 23 is just trying to remember and bring to light more information on this. I sent her an email.
That's shocking.
I know. And she emailed me back. It was a very, very quick kind of correspondent back and forth. She's very passionate about this case. She wants as many eyes and ears on this as possible. And in that town, that very, very small town, she believes that there is people withholding key information that has kept Mark safe up until this point. And she wants us to know that this is still an open investigation. It has officially been assigned to the Cold Case Unit of the Nebraska State Police. And that if anyone out there has any information or wants to actually do the right thing and tell people what they know instead of being a chump.
AKA Mark.
Yeah. Mark or any Mark's friends, family members, co-workers, colleagues, anyone out there, that they are encouraged to reach out to Chief Randy Olson at the Gothenburg Police Department, and his phone number is 308 537 3608. And I want to remind people that any tips can also be given anonymously. So that's the update on that very sad case.
Still technically a mystery.
Still technically, I wouldn't say mystery, but I would say unsolved. Right?
Yeah.
On paper.
Or you could say it's an unsolved mystery.
Okay, so you have our next story, Ben, which is our second prison break.
It's a jailbreak.
It's a jailbreak.
Jailbreak. All right. That's right. I know. Last night when we recorded, I did say originally this is our first jailbreak. It's not.
It's our second.
It's our second. The crazy lady that fell in love, whose husband spoke to us about
that poor man.
I know. I felt really bad.
Yeah, I felt
guy.
so bad for him.
Yeah.
He thought his wife was very happy.
She wasn't.
She wasn't.
All right. So this one is it's from the jail, the San Quinton jail in California.
Okay.
I guess
a pretty notorious prison.
It says the most notorious prison in California after Alcatraz was decommissioned and shut down. So this jail was built. It said Charles Manson. Charles Manson is
still
housed
to this
there.
day is in that jail.
He's still alive?
Yeah, he is. He does not look well.
Well, he's got to be up there.
He is.
Yeah. So at this time, it was 136 years old. That was in the 80s, so it's over 150 years old. It was built supposedly like in the 1850s sometime. Probably not as big back then.
It's probably grown since then.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. But houses 3,000 inmates.
That's the same size of that town we just talked about. Yeah. Gothenburg.
It pretty much houses Gothenburg, Nebraska.
Yeah.
But
I wish what's his name would be in there right now.
Yeah. So and it's like I said, it's a big prison, state prison. It's not called a prison anymore. I looked it up because I was looking. Hey, is this still are they still using it?
Okay, California. What do we call it now?
We call it a rehabilitation center.
Okay. You let me know how that's working out for Charles Manson, and then I'll start calling it a rehabilitation
center. How well are you
center.
rehabilitating Charles Manson there? That's where their death row inmates, a lot of California's death row inmates were held there, or used to be.
Yeah, they abolished the death penalty.
So, yeah. But our character in this one is named Mark Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And he was serving a 25-year to life sentence in San Quentin because of a crime that he committed in 1979 in Modesto, California. So, Unsolved Mysteries tells us a story. There's 3 teenage boys. They're hanging out in the dugout of a baseball field one evening, sitting around drinking beers, talking about women, is my guess, or girls, and 3 robbers, 3 guys in ski masks come up and demand money from them. And I guess this had happened.
This was kind of going on.
Yeah, there was multiple robberies
of these robberies of these 3 guys
area.
in ski masks. Yeah.
And one boy stands up and is like, "Nah, I'm not."
Nope.
Because they say, "Give us your wallets and your money," and one boy goes, "No,
I'm not going to do it.
Get lost." So one of them pulls out. I guess it was a rifle, and shoots these kids, wounds one and kills another. So the trigger man was Mark Adams.
Okay.
I did a little research on this.
Mm-hmm.
It actually took him 17 months to do the investigation. Mark Adams wasn't arrested till 1982. That's why I guess he was convicted in 1982.
Okay.
And he was in the Army in North Carolina when they arrested him and extradited him to California. So,
Oh, man.
because Mark Adams was 16 at the time when he committed this crime.
Okay. I will say, I didn't know that.
Yes, he was 16
Yeah.
at the time when he committed this crime, but then they finally
Was he
catch up to him.
sentenced to life?
What's that?
Was he sentenced to
It
life?
was 25 to life.
Okay.
Is what they said his sentence was.
Okay.
So he gets sent there in 1982 to San Quentin. The first 6 months, they said he was a model prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing everything right, following all the rules, so he gets rewarded for it. He gets to work in the academic department, working on computers.
Yeah.
So, which I guess, like, it was a job. Like, he had shifts he had to go in and work. He has a boss,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes in. They don't explain what he does, but he just says they work with computers in the academic department. So,
Yeah, and they said on there, like, the one thing his boss noted about him was that he hated being in his cell. Like, he would volunteer for overtime. He would
Yeah.
come in early. He'd say that and that was one of the reasons they enjoyed him being there so much, because he was a really hard worker, because he'd do anything to not be locked up in his cell.
yeah, I mean, and they said they had zero problems
Yeah.
with Mark. He, like I said, he was a model prisoner, no issues whatsoever. So, on June 10th, 1986, so he's been in this prison for 4 years. He goes to his boss, they say around 2:30 in the afternoon, and he says, hey, I have a dentist appointment, and I have a pass that's signed to leave work early and to go to the dentist. And his boss is like, all right, go ahead, man. Like, have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or see you on your next shift. So he has to go, and the dentist's office is in another part of the prison. He has to show his pass.
He has to go through a checkpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, it shows his pass to another guard to this checkpoint, and this guard says, yep, checked it, good, and he sees him walking towards the dentist's office. That is the last time anyone sees Mark. They said that at 4:15 that evening, they start the count. And warden says usually the count takes about 45 minutes. And at 4:45, Mark is confirmed missing.
Yeah, counts off. Something's wrong.
They know he ain't there. Prison goes into lockdown.
Yeah, they lock everything down.
And they search the premises, everything.
Top to bottom, everything's
Mark
checked.
is
He's
gone.
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 So that's where this is our mystery. Is when this episode airs, Mark is still missing. It's been a couple years since he's gone missing from this prison, and he's still missing. They do give us 3 theories on how they think Mark escaped.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea, right? So their first theory is that when Mark left that checkpoint, he veered off and changed into civilian clothes. Because I guess that area, he had access to, like, where the visitors are.
Mm-hmm.
And that he walked out with the visitors for the day.
Yeah, blended in and just walked out.
And I guess to leave, you have to go through 3 checkpoints, and at 2 of those checkpoints, you have to show photo ID.
Mm-hmm.
So they think that he had gotten some type of ID. Not crazy. He worked in the academic department. He worked with computers. He
Printers, all kinds of stuff.
probably could have made his own ID, and that he showed this ID and then just walked out of the prison with all the rest of the civilian. What did I say?
The civilian visitors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Visitors, sorry.
The non-employed prisoner people.
The non-prisoners. The second theory they have is that he scaled this
He shimmied up a wall.
He scaled this 25-foot wall, and then scaled down it.
And they think that that's super unlikely.
They say obviously it's
It's
possible,
possible.
but they do say like not probable. I guess they said shortly after Mark escapes,
Yeah.
three other prisoners, not at the same time, but three different separate instances. Prisoners try
People
to scale
start
this
thinking,
wall.
yeah, I
They're
wonder
like,
if this is what he did.
they're
Yeah.
like, I bet he did that. I can do it
Yeah,
too.
and one of them I think got but pretty seriously hurt
Yeah.
trying to climb up it.
So
None of them succeeded.
well, I guess so. This prison has live ammunition. Like they have the ability to shoot people.
Yeah, if you're
too.
escaping, they can shoot you.
Yeah. So three other people tried and got caught pretty easily. So that's where they're like, we just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
But obviously we have to say it's possible, they say. All right. So that's their second theory. Their third theory is that they think Mark had access to a vehicle. Again, this is what Robert Stack tells us. I have such a hard time believing this, but he says that prison every day has 225 service vehicles enter and exit that prison.
There's no way.
And I mean, I guess are you counting the employees? Because
Maybe.
I mean, if you count the employees, you probably have 3 shifts.
Yeah, this place is staffed 24/7.
Yeah, you have 3 shifts, and for guards for 3,000, you got to have a lot of guards.
Medical, laundry,
Yeah,
there are so
anyway,
many.
so that's what they say.
Yeah, that could be what they were talking about.
But they think it's possible he snuck into a vehicle of some sort and drove out. But these vehicles have to go through multiple checkpoints to get in and out.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think it's, they're like, maybe, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So, and that's where
the episode leaves us.
That's where it leaves us. They show us a picture and they say, if you've seen him, you know anything about
his
Mark,
whereabouts, give us a call.
Let them know, because he's a convicted murderer.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposed to be in jail for a lot longer.
A lot longer than 4 years.
Yeah, I guess they did say he was eligible for parole in 2007 if he'd just gone and done his time.
Mm.
So, anyways, that's where our episode leaves us. That's our mystery.
Okay.
So, update.
Here we go.
Mark was caught.
Okay.
In Puerto Rico in 1993.
Due to this episode?
No, not due to Unsolved Mysteries. What's the other show that was big, that was playing at that time?
It just went out of my head. What is it called? Hold on. America's Most Wanted.
Yes. America's Most Wanted
featured this story.
Aired Mark, and someone called it in, and the FBI picks him up in Puerto Rico and extradites him back to California, where he goes back to San Quinton.
Okay.
To serve out his time.
Okay, what was he doing down there?
We're going to get into that.
Okay.
So, hold on. 1 year later, after he goes back, in 1994, Mark is shot and killed by a guard.
Oh, good night.
So...
Not trying to escape, though.
No. So the story goes, because he'd escaped, he's in much more lockdown. He's not working in the academic department.
No, he's on everyone's radar.
So he gets privileged to go out into the yard. Him and another inmate get into an altercation, and Mark supposedly is just wailing on this guy.
Okay.
The guard, according to him, I read an article about this, he tells him to stop, and he doesn't. The inmate's getting the crap kicked out of him, and he shoots and kills Mark.
Okay.
So the family, I guess, at that time, California had a little bit of a problem with this. Like, they'd shot and killed a lot of inmates.
They had one of the highest rates, right?
They had the highest rate in the country for shooting and killing inmates.
Okay.
Now, to be fair, California is one of the largest states with the most prisons.
They have a lot of prisons, yeah.
So, I mean, trying to compare numbers to California to practically any other state, you're going to be higher. But the family ended up suing the state of California for this, and they won $2.3 million in like 1998 or 1999
Okay.
for a wrongful death.
Okay.
And California had to really kind of revamp their rules and laws of how they deal with the inmates.
Yeah, so some legislation changed after this.
But yeah, we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
So
That's a different podcast.
yeah. So they do tell us that Mark never reveals how he escaped. Never tells anybody.
Yeah, he legitimately takes that
He took it to his grave. Doesn't want anyone to know how he got out of there. So, but we do have a little bit of information on.
Yeah, so what was he doing down there?
So, when they picked him up in Puerto Rico, he was actually married to a lady called Elsie Diaz,
All right, Elsie Diaz.
who was earlier a supervisor in the prison work program.
Oh.
She worked at the prison in that work program, or the student center.
Oh, so she was like working with him in that
She
sort of
was his boss.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well,
She's 29 years older
of
than
course
him.
she is.
So he gets out. All we know is that somehow he escapes the prison.
Okay.
And Elsie hides him out. Helps hide him. And she's from...
It's remarkable that so no charges were ever brought against her for aiding
No.
and abetting or anything.
Well, because they didn't know if she actually helped him escape.
What, did she just run into him at the Fro-Yo place down the street from the prison?
I mean,
and is
obviously
like,
she knew he
hey,
was coming.
you're out? Oh.
Yeah.
Did you know I always had a crush on you?
Yeah.
Do you want to come back to my place? We can get married and move to Puerto Rico
Moved to
together.
Puerto Rico. She's from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So he gets out. They fall in love. Well,
He uses her to move him to Puerto Rico.
And they get married and go to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And start their new life.
Okay.
So, and supposedly, Mark was like a model citizen in Puerto Rico. I mean, you would imagine, because he probably doesn't want to go back to prison.
Yeah.
But, like, he supposedly visited people in their prison. And,
Did he start the Scared Straight program there?
Yeah, I don't know. But he finds God and is like this model citizen to all these people.
Yeah, how did that go when he decided to beat the crap out of somebody in the yard?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he
Where was God in that moment?
So, I guess like when they arrest him, like citizens are petitioning to the leader of Puerto Rico, like, hey, don't extradite him back to the U.S. Like,
He only killed a teenage kid.
Yeah, he only killed a teenage kid. Don't send him back.
Probably that teenage kid probably had $12 in his pocket at best. Yeah, over something so petty and small.
Anyways, he got sent back. He was killed in prison. And that's the end of...
And that's all wrapped up in a nice little bow. So that mystery is solved.
Is the end of Mark Adams.
Okay.
And so, I mean, but I guess the only mystery we still have is we technically don't know how he escaped the prison. Like, what did he do?
Well, I'm going to guess that if we asked his wife, she'd have a little bit of information.
Well, I guess so. They did bring her in. They tried to interview her.
Oh, yeah, she's not going to say a word.
And she pleaded the fifth.
Yeah.
She's like, I ain't saying anything. And, I can't blame her.
I have the right not to incriminate myself,
Yeah,
so I'm going to stay
She's
quiet.
like, I'm not talking because I don't want to
wouldn't talk
incriminate
either.
myself.
I mean, that is your constitutional
So
right. And actually, in our next story, there is also some pleading of the fifth. So, our next story is about a man named Stephen Cox, which is, so Ben and I have a dear friend with that same name. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I can't wait to give Steve a hard time about this. But we open up on the Unsolved Mysteries case, and the cameraman has got his soft focus lens on, and there is this cute little old woman out in her garden, trimming her roses and making her own little sort of like plant arrangement in her house, right? Arrangement in her house. And her name is Lorraine. And Lorraine at the time, this is 1981, was 68 years old and newly widowed. Okay? Her husband had left her $100,000. Adjusted for inflation,
320,000.
320,000, 346,000, so about 350,000. Okay? And it was all that she had. Okay, this was the money that her husband had left for her, and she invested it with a man named Stephen Cox. And then we get another talking head. Her name is Michelle. Michelle was hit by a drunk driver in 1976, and the insurance company awarded her $75,000 because Michelle sounded like she needed some sort of, I don't know if it was round the clock care. She was in a wheelchair, but it seemed like she also needed some sort of daily or monthly or weekly assistance in helping her live her life.
Yeah.
And 75,000 adjusted for inflation from 1976 to today.
300,000.
414,000. This is a chunk of change. Yeah. She also invested her money with Stephen. Fast forward to September 24th, 1984. Stephen disappeared.
What?
Yeah. Hasn't been seen since. Okay. So this is where we'll do a quick little callback because I started seeing some connections here. A few episodes ago.
Because we're in
Medford, Oregon again.
Medford, Oregon again.
Yeah. And it's 1984.
So this is our second scammer.
Yeah, this is the second scam within like a very short time in Medford, Oregon.
I don't know what.
The same police detective is interviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this, if you guys remember, there was the scammer
with the sports
memorabilia in Medford, Oregon.
Yeah.
Who then up and left, and then was found dead in a Vegas hotel by the mob. But we don't know.
But we don't know, allegedly.
But I'm pretty sure that's the mob.
Yeah. And it also, because you and I talked on that episode, we couldn't figure out why the police were looking into him. Because the other case, all of the investors and employees were like sitting there with like painted faces on, like, we were super happy. We had no questions. Like, and they helped him pack up the sports memorabilia and get out of town.
Because they're like, don't tell Joe Pesci.
Don't. We have been told that we just need to be quiet.
Yeah. Don't tell Scarface or he'll come for us.
So we're going to see some weird connections between these two. And this is 8 episodes, and Medford has now appeared twice.
Yes.
And Medford is a small town.
Yes. Like, I've been to Medford.
Yeah. I grew up right by, we've talked about this.
Yes.
Like, we've spent a lot of time in Medford.
My grandparents grew up, like, they lived in Grants Pass my whole life.
Yeah.
Which is like 15 minutes from Medford.
Yeah, just a little jaunt away from there.
Yeah. And it's not a big city. Like, there's no reason to go to Medford for anyone. No one is listening to this and says, maybe we should go there.
Well, I think now it's a big winery place, so maybe people do travel. But growing up, it was not like a destination city. My parents would go to Medford to go to Costco because that was the closest Costco growing up.
But lesson, don't invest your money in people.
If you live in Medford, Oregon.
All right. Sorry. So Steve's got
Lorraine's
money and the other girl's money.
So we then see in the episode a bankrupt courtroom in Medford full of people. There's more than 200 citizens from this town in this courtroom.
So like half the town.
Mm-hmm. They had all been investors.
Of course.
And they give all the authorities the information. They tally up the number of the amount of money stolen or invested with Steve. $3.5 million. In
1984.
Adjusted for inflation?
Well, you got to triple that.
Mm-hmm.
So 3.5. What is that? 10 and a half?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
10.5, yeah.
10.5.
So, the real question, the first thing the police are trying to figure out is how did Steve convince these people to give him so much money? So we
Well,
get a little history on
I
Steve.
bet there was some promises made.
Yeah, on paper. So we go back a little ways. Steve was actually from that area.
Okay.
Not only was he from that area, he was a very popular student, a good student in school.
Where everybody knew
He
his name.
was an all-around athlete, captain of the football team. He lettered in baseball and was named one of Oregon's all-state baseball players. Okay?
All right.
Big deal.
He's a big
He
deal.
then goes to
He's a
college.
hometown hero kid.
Yeah, hometown hero kid. He goes to college in Oregon, meets his college sweetheart there, gets married, and moves her back to Medford.
And he's like, hey, I got this great business
I got a great idea.
opportunity.
So his wife Deborah and him settled down in Medford, Oregon, and Steve opens up in 1982 a company called SD Cox Investments.
What does SD stand for?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't
Do
look
you
it up.
think that maybe he just like picked two letters? Like
Just
SD,
threw him at a dartboard.
SD. Cox.
SD.
Maybe that's his
Oh, maybe his middle name is something with a D.
douche. I think it's...
Speaking of, did you see that hairline on him? His hairline was so far back, but his forehead was also so big, but he tried to keep it growing long in the back.
Yeah,
Like
it's
we
great.
couldn't tell that he had lost all of his hair up top. It was a bad
We're gonna
look.
get into that whole outfit.
That whole, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into it later.
So it seems like, according to detectives, when he first started this company, he had done some personal investing and had done really well.
Okay.
He had done some gold, some silver, some investing in other things, maybe real estate, and had made some decent money. So he decides, since he's done this for himself, he can do it for other people.
Of course.
Okay? Here's where things very quickly become a red flag. Steve attracts investors only because he's able to promise a rate of return of 25%.
Yeah,
Which is
that always works.
Unrealistic and unfeasible 98% of the time.
Are you telling me
That if someone
if
tells you
promises me a
rate of return,
massive rate of return, and says
at 25%,
I guarantee
and you can guarantee
I
that.
guarantee it.
Yeah. So, but here's the catch. The only thing he can give you for your money is an IOU.
250,000. Might want to hold on to that one.
Yeah, he's got a briefcase full of them. As good as cash.
It's like this stuff is as good as cash.
Yeah.
These are IOUs.
Yeah, exactly. So Steve's making these promises.
Samsonite. I
he's-
was way off.
He's got his briefcase full of IOUs, and his business, shocking, triples over the next little while, to the point where
So no one's raising the red flag. Like, hey man, that seems like a pretty high rate of return
well, of
that
course,
you're promising.
in any Ponzi scheme, usually at the beginning, because you have so many people hearing, because people are telling their friends, hey, this guy's promising me a 25% rate of return, and for the last 3 months, the checks on the interest are coming in. So they tell several friends and see how this pyramid starts to kind of build, and then they tell their friends and they tell their friends, right? So we got a Ponzi scheme starting to get built here, but the poor
So what you're
people in
saying
Medford have not
is that
figured that
Stephen
out
Cox was the original Michael Scott.
yet. Yeah. No, he was the original. Oh, yeah, he does that episode. He's the original Bernie Sanders. Or not, is it
Bernie
Bernie
Madoff.
Bernie Madoff, right? Bernie Sanders. That's a whole different
Oh,
podcast.
no. Sorry, Bernie.
Sorry, Bernie. Bernie would take your money and distribute it evenly amongst everybody else. Maybe keep a little extra for himself, but everyone else is going to get an equal share.
Yeah. Just him at the top.
Yeah, him at the
And
top, but then
everybody
everyone else
else
is
at
going
the
to be the
bottom.
same.
That's
yeah.
not a pyramid.
Don't look at my mansion over here.
Don't look at my pyramid.
Yeah. Your
Or
pyramids
just-
are all the same, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he, at this point, is getting so busy, he decides he's got a buddy named Eugene. Him and Eugene go way back, all the way to
Eugene.
elementary school. So here, enter in hometown douchebag number 2. According to police, Eugene was the forceful personality in this. He's the guy that does not leave the front door. He doesn't shut up. He doesn't stop talking until he closes the deal. Okay? So that's his job. He brings in the new clients. Steve's apparently just managing the money. Everything's going great. Yeah. So this is a really interesting part of this episode. So we get two people, because Eugene is ballsy enough to be interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries.
Of course he is.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah. He thinks highly of himself. So Eugene is being interviewed at the same time as Lorraine, the elderly woman, the widowed woman.
That invested $100,000.
That invested $100,000, every penny she had. And Eugene is telling one story. And Lorraine,
hold on. Don't you dare try to tell me that their two stories don't match up.
They don't match up at all. Not even close.
I don't believe it.
And in fact, it seems like whoever's doing the interviewing is telling Eugene what Lorraine has said. And he's like, I don't know what she was talking about. I never said such a thing. So according to her, she had asked a few questions like, what would happen if the company went belly up? Eugene claims he tells her, hey, just like with any investing, there's risks. And if the company for some reason was to just disperse and go belly up tomorrow, you would lose all your money. Lorraine claims that he tells her, hey, we actually have a plan for that. All of our money is secure. It's all insured. And on top of that, we have a separate checking account that we store all of people's original investment in. Yeah. And if we were to go belly up, you would, at bare minimum, you're going to get that money back because we have it in reserves for you.
Of course.
Eugene says that's wild. That's not how investing works. And he would have never made such a claim like that. Because he's not the kind of salesperson that's going to tell you whatever needs to be said.
Eugene's an honest guy.
Yeah, real honest guy. So we get a quick little rundown that by 1983, SD Cox is flourishing. They're doing great. It's only been open a couple years. They're flourishing. Steve is buying restaurants and bars and an arcade. He buys 2 jewelry stores and an inventory of gems and diamonds and rings and gold and all of the things. Okay? He's like a crow. He likes shiny objects.
Of course you would say that.
That's probably being mean to crows to put them two together. But it seems to be he likes shiny, flashy things, right? According to Eugene, people just were showing up left and right to invest because Steve's driving around in fancy cars and making it rain and throwing money around and living this big life in this tiny little town. And they assume that if he's successful, everyone underneath him is also going to be successful.
Did you notice what they brought into the show when they were talking about how rich he is?
What?
A limo.
Oh, that's right.
They show a limo in the reenactment.
They did show a limo in the reenactment,
I'm like, this is so 80s. Because in the 80s,
a limo was a big deal.
The limo's the most luxury vehicle you can get. You know, like that.
Well, yeah, and you aren't driving the limo.
Well, no.
You're being chauffeured around. This movie could have been based on Dumb and Dumber. We got a blonde idiot and a brunette idiot just scamming everybody left and right. So
I owe you.
At this point, Eugene lets us know that his buddy Steve's living a big fat facade lifestyle.
But I'm sure Eugene is
money.
not. I'm sure
Eugene
he's
was
super,
the conservative one.
Yeah, just chill.
Steve was driving a Toyota Corolla, I'm sure, at the time, right?
I'm sure. The Dodge Stratus.
Exactly. So this tension starts to build between Steve and Eugene, according to Eugene. Mind you, this is all from his point of view. He's telling Steve that they just need to sell everything off, pay their investors back the best that they can, and just call it quits.
Well, because the company starts going on.
Yeah, they're starting to struggle.
Because we were talking about they're doing good.
They're doing good, but he said that was all a facade.
But it's not doing good.
It's not doing good.
So you're telling me these guaranteed.
This 25% rate of return guarantee is not working out correctly.
It's not working out.
Yeah.
Are you saying that they might have lost some money in investments?
Yeah, they did. But
How's
Eugene's
that
trying to be
possible?
the level-headed one here.
Okay.
But he said that Steven just wasn't reasonable. He was really competitive, and he didn't want to lose. So he refuses to take any ownership over the situation that they're in. So, as a last resort, once again, like literally at the very end of the show, Eugene goes back to Lorraine again and scams her out of another $5,000.
Well, because this is kind of where we learn
Yeah.
their scam, right? Well, and that's what we're saying. This is like a Bernie Madoff. So they're
every
taking,
month they need more people's money to pay off the other people so that this pyramid doesn't come crushed. This house of cards doesn't come
they're
falling
taking
down.
people's investments, but they're giving them like a monthly check. They're sending them like, see, your money made money. Here's
As long as nobody
$1,000.
decides to like cash out everything at once, for a little while they're going to be okay. But you can't keep that promise
So
up.
then they're
you need
losing
more
money,
people coming in.
So they're sending people checks, supposedly of them making money, but they're not making money. So to pay those checks, they got to bring more people in.
What is that? Rob Peter to pay Paul sort of scenario, right?
So they need more people to invest so that they can keep sending out supposedly checks.
And then hoping that the next month they can find more
They can
people
find
to do
more
the exact
people.
same
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
So he goes back to Lorraine.
He goes back to Lorraine, scams her out of like, this is how desperate they were, out of $5,000 out of this widow. But like literally right after that meeting, Steve goes to Eugene's house and says, I don't want to do this anymore. And Steve and his wife, Deborah, are sitting in their expensive 1980s home that is Art Deco to the nines. We got a sunken living room. We got a pastel couch. We got baby blue walls. We've got Japanese art happening. We got all the stuff going on. We got feathered hair for days.
Yeah.
And Steve says, well, guess what, buddy? Deborah and I are leaving town. You're either in or you're out. Eugene acts as if he's never heard this before. He was completely unaware of this plan.
Of course.
He was out just working a few hours ago, getting money from
He's just like trying to do what's right.
Yeah, getting money from Lorraine, right? And so Steve says, you can either come with us or you can stay here. Well, Eugene thinks that's really unfair that he has to stay there and like have everything fall on him because obviously people are going to be mad. And if Steve's not around,
But they lost all their money.
Well, yeah. And Eugene just doesn't have the time to deal with that. That's not fair.
That's not fair.
Mm-mm.
No.
So even though he didn't really want to,
Of course he didn't.
he decides that in the best interest of his safety, he's going to go with these two.
I'll leave with you guys.
Okay.
Why not?
So Friday afternoon, they ask everybody to stay late after work. They have a whole employee staff like meeting. They've got a whole group of people that work for him. And they say, hey, super quick before you take off for the weekend, Eugene and I have to bounce out of town for a super big, really important meeting with some high-class investors. Okay? Can't tell you where we're going. Can't tell you how to get a hold of us. We won't be here on Monday, so don't freak out. Don't worry.
We'll be back Tuesday.
We'll be back on Tuesday. So
I think they were just trying to buy an extra day.
yeah. So just don't worry about it. Don't call us this weekend.
Don't come looking.
Don't come looking for us. Everything's cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. Goodbye. The moment that door closes and the employees are out, they pack up everything. They get the floppy disks. They get the jewelry. The computers, the furniture, the artwork, everything loaded up in the back of the van. Click. Boom. The three of them are out of there on their way to Hawaii.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a place to take a moving truck
Yeah.
full of valuables and hang out low-key on an
Low-key.
island. No idea
Just
how.
blend in.
I have no idea how the truck's supposed to get there.
But they're just gonna blend.
They're going to blend right in. No one's going to ask any questions.
Nah.
3 white people in Hawaii.
Nah.
No. Exactly. So that all happened Friday, September 21st. Okay, 1984. We don't hear anything, see anything from these people till July 1985.
So they don't show up.
They don't show up
The
and
police are now like, hey, we got a problem.
we got a problem. Yeah.
'Cause
And
all
this
of a
is
sudden-
kind of against us back. We've got that bankruptcy meeting taking place. They're gathering information. Yeah, they're not there. They're all of the bells and whistles are going off. And then nobody hears anything from these three until July 1985. By this point, there's arrest warrants out for Eugene and Steve.
Eugene was he just was afraid. He had to go with Steve.
He was between a rock and a hard place.
It's not what he wanted.
The unlikely person to return, though, and we never get a backstory, and I would love
I really
a backstory
want a
on this
backstory
one.
for this.
Deborah walks into the Medford
Deborah's
Police
like-
Department and has an attorney and agrees to cooperate. Because, mind you, she had no warrant. She was not being...
Yeah, the detective's like, actually, we didn't even...
They didn't
she's
have
not
anything.
wanted.
Yeah.
But hey, we'll
But
take
she's
some
willing
info.
to... She's ready to sing like a canary.
Of course she is.
So I'm guessing Eugene gets wind of this because within a week, him and his attorney also show up at the
He's
Medford
like,
Police
"All right,
Department and surrender themselves to be interviewed. However, Eugene, while he says that he's happy to cooperate, would super love to, he also needs
the
to plead the fifth because he can't really say anything about Stephen because it might also incriminate himself. So you get what he's doing,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
He'd love to help. She would love to be a part of this, but
Love to
his
get
hands
your
are
money
tied.
Back, but
Yeah.
I might have spent it already.
yeah.
And I'm
So-
out of IOUs.
And Stephen has the briefcase.
Steven's got the IOUs.
Yeah.
I
So
don't have them.
he does tell the police this one kind of random weird story, which maybe you could connect to the other one, that the mob is somehow oddly involved because this sounds like something the mob would do. Eugene claims that really the only reason Stephen got himself in this situation, not necessarily the Ponzi
the reason
scheme,
he ran away.
but the reason he refused to sell and the reason he refused to run away, or the reason he did run away, was because he had a big mysterious investor
Yeah.
who invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into SD Cox.
His name was Al Pacino.
But as a security measure, he takes out a life insurance policy on Stephen
Of course.
and says, "You screw me over and lose my money, I'm going to get my money back through a life insurance policy," which last time I checked...
Your life is my investment.
Yeah, last time I checked, the only way you get to cash that in is if Stephen is not alive anymore.
Yeah.
So Eugene lets him know, like, hey, this is the only reason Stephen did all of this. Because really, at the end of the day, he was just worried about his family.
Of course.
Not even himself, really. But,
Yeah,
he had
the
a
best
wife
part is
to take care of.
They tell this story, but that's it. Like nothing
ever comes
from this
from it.
story
No.
comes like to fruition or anything.
No, even Sergeant Sweeney is like, okay,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, October 1985, Eugene pleads guilty to charges of racketeering and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Yay!
No.
No. He served 2 years.
Of course he did.
Okay? All right. That's...
But the best way, he serves 2 years and then like doesn't have to pay anything back.
No,
like there's
doesn't have
no
to do...
like
There's no
financial
consequences
repercussions.
whatsoever for Eugene, to the point where he's on this freaking show giving an interview.
Well, if he went to, yeah, I mean, 'cause
By the time this interview had to have happened, he's already served his time and done with it.
Yeah.
He looked as arrogant as can be, and why not?
Steven should have just came back. He would have been out by this episode too.
Yeah. Okay, so you ready for our update?
All right, so that's where it leaves us.
That's where it leaves us.
Mystery. If you've seen Steven,
Please give us a call.
give us a call. Mm-hmm. Give me a call in my trench coat, and I'll come.
And we're going to
investigate.
show up with all of our trench coats,
Yeah.
and we're going to take them in.
So update.
within minutes of the broadcast, once again, the good old people of Idaho,
Yeah, dude.
they
Idaho.
are on it.
I mean, but here's the other thing. Everyone goes to Idaho to hide out. I don't know what it is, because the lady that they were out east, right? The lady with the convict husband
Yeah.
or boyfriend who
Boyfriend.
just left her husband and kids. They went to Idaho,
Idaho.
right?
Yep. And same thing. Within minutes, Idaho on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So 6 different people called
Of course they did.
to let them know that Stephen was not only living in Boise, Idaho, they gave him his alias, and he was working at a local gold and jewelry store.
Of course he was.
Shiny objects, man.
Well, and he had
Yeah.
he had inventory.
He had
you know?
inventory. Yeah, we're even going to find that out. So he had been living in Boise for 3 years, was remarried.
So
However,
what happened between him and Deborah?
I don't know.
But it was Deborah's like, yeah, I'm out, and Steve's like, okay, go ahead. I got this other girl in Idaho.
He's got his
I'll
side
marry
piece, so
her.
he's going to bring her in as the main.
I'll just
Yeah.
marry her.
Mm-hmm.
Start a new scam.
I know, but then he even scams this woman
Of course he does.
because he tells her the day of the broadcast, "Hey, I'm so sorry, wife number 2. A family emergency has taken place. I had a loved one die in Hawaii again. I got to go."
They're really obsessed with Hawaii.
He's really into Hawaii. What is it with people from Idaho that also do bad things and then go to Hawaii?
I don't know.
Because that's what that couple did in Idaho that killed their 2 kids is they were like gallivanting in Hawaii.
I don't know.
I don't know.
People, when you go to Hawaii, you're stuck.
You're on an island.
You're on an island, and it's not very
It's not a big one. Yeah. And you're not going to blend in with the locals there.
No.
No. So, however, he did feel bad. So the next day he called her and said, "Just kidding. No one died, but also I'm not coming back. Bye." Okay.
Okay.
5 days after he flees from Boise, he checks into a hotel in Lake Mead, which is once again right down by Vegas. Registers
is
under the
with
name
these
John
people?
Status and lists an Arizona address. However, enter in Eden. She's the hotel manager.
Eden is Sierra.
From the jump, when he registers, she notices that his license plate is different than the one that he wrote down on the little slip of paper.
Okay, Karen.
So that's just a little thing she tucked into her back pocket. But then she starts to notice also he never leaves his room during the day. And this is like at a resort, like a national park resort. Like people aren't usually there just to like hang out in their hotel room. But he does leave at night. So she spends like the next several days just eyeing this guy.
She's watching him like a hawk.
Mm-hmm. So 2 weeks later, she's out making her rounds in the morning, keeping an eye on this guy, and she notices that when he comes out of his hotel room in the morning to take his trash out, he walks down several doors and leaves it in front of another person's door
Of course.
and sneaks back into his room.
And Eden sees this whole thing.
She sees this whole thing. So
and
she...
so do you think that Eden just leaves that
Nope.
be? And it's like, that's a little suspicious.
She goes over, opens up that man's trash,
and digs
and
through the
digs
trash.
through it and finds she doesn't know even what she's looking for.
No.
Because here's the thing, all she knows right
She
now
doesn't know who this
is that he's
guy
not
is.
leaving his room during the day and that he didn't write down the correct license plate number.
That's all she's got.
Yeah.
And that he's lurking around like
Yeah.
a weirdo.
So she finds a crumpled up letter and she reads this man's handwritten letter, and it says in the letter that the Unsolved Mystery Show was a bombshell.
But I just want to know, who's the letter
Who's
to?
the letter to?
And why are you talking about this?
And why did it end up in the
And
trash?
then
Was
why
there
did-
another draft? Did you send that letter out to somebody else?
Yeah, then why did you then throw
Was this
that
just
letter
thoughts?
away?
Were you journaling? I don't know. We get no information on that.
No.
So she takes this letter home and shows her husband, who I'm sure for the last 2 weeks is tired about hearing about the
And he's
weirdo
just
with
like,
the incorrect
Eden,
license plate.
I don't know what to do anymore. Just call the police. Quit telling me about it.
Yeah. So he tells her, call the park rangers for the love, woman. So she does. And they run a computer check and discover that his car belongs to somebody else other than John Stratus, right? And so December 14th, they go out to the Lake Mead Lodge to just kind of keep an eye and see if they can figure out who this guy really is, right? They haven't even figured out who he is yet. However, 15 minutes earlier, Stephen had pieced out.
He's like, I'm out.
He's out. Thankfully, though, later that morning, park rangers spotted his car, pulled him over into a parking lot, and he ends up in the Gold Strike Casino. They ask him for license and registration. He produces a license, and it says it belongs to a Robert Davis. And they run this through an NCIC computer and find that had been flagged as an alias for a man named Stephen Cox, who also happened to have a warrant
out for his arrest.
So
and the park rangers are like, dude, this is the best day of my life.
Yeah, they're probably so over trying to like look for lost people on the trails or, all the different things at the park rangers, reminding people how to like pack in and pack out. But it gets even better because they pop his trunk and start searching his vehicle, and he has got suitcases full of jewelry.
Yeah, he's still got it years later.
Years later, he's toting this stuff around. He's got a bunch of cash. He's got a treasure trove in the trunk of his car. So December 20th, 1988, Stephen is extradited back to Oregon. He faces 4 counts of selling unregistered securities. So this man wasn't even a registered broker of any kind, okay? He also pled guilty to racketeering and fraud, was sentenced to 20 years in prison and ordered to pay $3 million in restitution.
I'm going to guess he didn't pay that restitution.
However, 2 years later, he is released on parole and free to go.
Of course.
2 years for racketeering, unregistered securities, and scamming people out of $3.5 million. That blows my mind.
Well.
But this might be shocking to you. In October of 2005, he was arrested again back in Idaho.
So.
Yep, he's back in Idaho with charges of grand theft, forgery, computer crimes, and of course, parole violation.
What?
Mm-hmm. And
a criminal committed more crimes?
Yeah. In December of 2013, he was once again released from prison. It looks as of to date, he has not been arrested again for anything. Stephen Cox is a very popular name, so I couldn't find him about anything else he might be doing with his life nowadays. But so that's where we are.
That's our update.
That's the update on our... So yeah, once again, the mystery is solved on that one. So lesson learned, don't invest your money with local people in Medford, Oregon. Yeah, especially if they promise you a 25% rate of return and give you an IOU, because that's not how it's done. That's shocking. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we did it. We finished Season 1, Episode 8. Episode 8, we did it. We did it again. Nailed it. And so if anyone doesn't care to listen to our couples part of our podcast, feel free to exit stage right. You're free to go. For anyone else who wants to hang out, I have a fun question for Ben. Okay. Ben, would you rather be uber wealthy, infinite wealth, but you can never leave the city bounds of whatever city you pick? All right, I get to pick the city. You get to pick your city, but you can never leave the bounds of that city for the rest of your life. Uh-huh. Or you will be poor, but have the ability to travel and see the whole world. but you're never going to be wealthy. What one would you rather do?
This is easy.
I know it's easy for you. I could guess which one you're going to pick.
Wealthy city, never leave.
Yeah, that tracks.
It doesn't even have to do with the wealth, which, I mean, but that's definitely a perk.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a lot of places in the world I need to go see. And I am perfectly content.
Well, you're a homebody, right?
I am a homebody. And especially if you give me the city I want, and if my city can just be my cabin up in the woods around nobody, even better. So, yeah, I mean, you give me what I need in this one city. I don't need to go anywhere. That's fine. I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good. And I got all this money, so I can just build
Have a
whatever
hobby.
I want.
Yeah.
Hobbies.
Start a podcast.
Yeah. I mean, how about Unsolved Mysteries? Sure. Yeah. No, that's easy.
Yeah.
I'm not, like I said, I don't feel this. There are some places I do want to see in the world, but that list is not very long. And if you told me, hey, you're not going to go, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm good with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of places I need to go in my life.
Yeah. This answer doesn't surprise me at all.
All right. What about you? I already know.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah. I would pick, I'll be poor and travel the world any day of the week. Yeah. That's fine.
You want to see every inch of this.
I want to see everything. I want to experience every culture. I want to meet people. I want to hear their stories. I want to be ingrained in their traditions. That's one of my favorite parts of traveling in general. You and I have been married now for 17 years. And growing up, I didn't travel a lot. My parents had 4 kids. You and I have traveled probably more than I think I would have ever thought growing up. But still, we haven't jet set across the world by any means. But we've seen some places and done some stuff. And some of my favorite memories of any time I've traveled is getting to meet the locals. You and I have never done anything crazy fancy, staying at the Ritz or the fanciest of hotels by any shape or form. When I travel, those are my favorite memories. Getting to meet people, getting to see where the local people eat, hearing their stories. I remember one of my favorite things when we went to New York City was just asking people, like, how did you end up here? New York City is not an easy city to live in. No. And space-wise, financial-wise, all of those things. And every time I talked to a local, I just wanted to hear their story. Like, how long have you lived here? What do you do? How did you decide to make this your home and integrate this into like your fabric? And same thing, Hawaii, anywhere I've ever been, that's all I want to do. So yeah, that's fine. I don't have to stay at the fanciest of places, but if you know that at the end of the day, I've got enough to just keep my belly full enough and a roof over my head, I'm cool. I'll travel the world. I'll ride in a bus. I'll sleep on a bedroll. I don't care.
Just give me my jammies and my 4 walls. I'm good.
And yet, we are married and happily married at that. It's
very happy.
I don't know if that's the secret sauce to making a marriage work, is to being very oddly different, because I think growing up together, because we kind of have in the fact that we got married in our early 20s, you have made me love and appreciate and value being home. And I like to think that I have pushed you to experience different foods and cultures and experiences that maybe you would have never thought to do before either.
Like a podcast.
Or a Broadway musical in New York. That's probably something you never thought you would have ended up doing.
But I did it.
You did it. And so, I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Okay. So we'll kind of start to wrap it up there. I will let everybody know we would love and appreciate any and all reviews as long as they're 5 stars. We are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and just about anywhere else that you can get.
Amazon?
And Amazon, yep, podcast streaming services. We have an Instagram page that is called Unsolved Couple Pod. And we also have a Facebook group that is Unsolved Couple Pod Discussion. I've got to double check that. If you have any feedback, comments, or concerns, you are free to email us at unsolvedcouple@gmail.com. And Ben and I will be back again next week with you, where we once again recap one of the original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.